the song with your heart. Play the song with your heart.
Let's transition to the Los Angeles Rams. They lost Aaron Donald. So they're gonna have to
Huge
replace
loss.
him. Huge loss. Hall of
But
Famer.
they did draft Braden Fisk, who I was high
Yeah.
on coming out.
Yeah.
So.
Let's
Well, they got to
see.
play an in? Interesting.
Mhm. I think somebody that they drafted got injured recently. I don't know who it was, but I remember
Let me see.
somebody may have gotten injured on their team. Maybe they're healthy now, but I remember someone may have gotten injured, but I don't know if that's a problem now.
Was it a
Uh,
defensive or offensive player?
it was a defensive player.
I don't see any injury designations on
Probably
anybody.
it's probably earlier in the off season,
Oh,
like
okay.
around OTAs. So maybe they healed and they're fine now. But uh, let's see.
If I could describe the Rams team with one word, it would be
What
youth. It's
youth?
youth
Yep.
all over the team. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of these guys literally just got drafted in the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
And for what they had to work with last year, they overachieved.
They really did. Nobody
They
expected them to be
overachieved.
that good.
Yeah, but Puka came out of absolutely nowhere and
Mm-hmm.
became a legitimate top guy, played like a top 10 receiver his rookie year. He's looking to build upon that. You still got the vet in Matthew Stafford. Question is, can he stay healthy? I know he got injured in a joint practice against the Cowboys, so that he was seeing a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo. We already know about Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't even
Mm.
trust him as a backup.
Nah, I don't think he's a backup at this stage of his career. I think he's more of a third string guy, practice squad guy. He's regressed. It seems like he was a Belichick / Kyle Shanahan merchant, and ever since he left those two, it's been downhill. So yeah, I don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. According to PFF, they have the number 8th ranked offensive line. So they have a pretty decent offensive line.
Yeah,
They have a really good running game. I know you mentioned Puka Nakua, but they also remember Kyron Williams as
Kyron Williams,
well.
yeah.
So that you drafted
And they got Blake. They
two
drafted Blake Corum
phenomenal
too.
rookies. Yeah, Blake Corum. I think Blake Corum, he's there to limit the amount of touches for Kyron Williams. You know, Kyron Williams got injured during the middle of the year, so they want to make sure that Kyron Williams can stay healthy throughout the season. Similar to a way I remember Alvin Kamara. You know, I remember he was getting banged up at one point, and they were drafted running backs to make sure that his workload isn't too much, and he's not they're not overutilizing him, and he can stay healthy, stay fresh throughout the entirety of the season. Because Kyron Williams, he's a tremendous running back, and you bring in Blake Corum, he was also a really good running back in college, and you bring him in. It's a nice 1-2 punch. You also limit the amount of throws that Matthew Stafford. You don't want Matthew Stafford to have to throw the ball a whole lot, especially he's getting up there in age. He's had some injuries in his upper body area, so that the offense. I believe the offense is going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing as long as Matthew Stafford is the quarterback. You still have Cooper Kupp. He's up there in age, but he's still a serviceable receiver. And I believe Puka Nakua, he's going to get better than what he was last year in his rookie year. I think he's going to be even better. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished top 3 in receiving yards. He's that tremendous. Like, the dude is very talented, and although when Cooper Kupp came back, his production went down, I think this year the Rams are going to finally transition into Puka Nakua is our number 1, and Cooper Kupp can be the number 2 at this stage of his career. So I expect that
Makes
to
sense to me.
happen. Yeah, I like the Rams. I think they're going to compete. They're going to be in the mix. The defense. Let's check the defense. Well, how do you feel about their defense? I mean, they drafted Jared Verse.
Hmm.
He's a pretty decent edge rusher.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's still. I mean, I've heard
His
a
his
mixed.
hype train kind of fell off as the course of the season went on. At
Hmm.
FSU, people were started paying attention to Dallas Turner and
Hmm.
those kind of guys. But yeah, Jared Verse's still a good player. They got Braden Fisk. They drafted him this year. I was high on him. I like this film. They
Hmm.
had some off-season additions. I
Tre'Davious
believe
White.
Trey White, Cameron Curl,
Hmm.
who was one of the few bright
Yeah.
spots on that Commanders defense last year.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else?
Uh, I don't know. I don't
I,
know.
I,
Those
I'm
are the
not
only
too
ones I
sure. I
remember.
don't want to spew false
That's
information, but I mean
yeah.
they got dudes. Byron Young had a pretty solid rookie year last year, and he's
Hmm.
looking to get um build on that. I think it was Kobe Turner last year who played much better than people thought he was going to play.
Mm.
So I mean they got some dudes.
They had a good draft last year. That's what really
Hmm.
had them overachieve because nobody thought that they were going to be that good, especially what happened after they won the Super Bowl. Remember, they had like a down year. Stafford was hurt. Just everything went wrong for them. And people were like, man, you pay all that money to these guys, you give up all these draft picks. It's going to be dark times. Should they trade Stafford? And then the year after, they have an amazing draft and they're able to. People are like, oh, Stafford's the top 7 QB now. He's back to being top 7 QB now. So yeah, man,
The
they're
one
gonna be
thing I
good.
don't understand is them not really having a contingency plan for Matt Stafford. I'm
Mm.
a Georgia fan, but I tell you what, Stetson Bennett, he ain't it.
No, he's
He's
garbage.
not it.
Absolutely
I don't
garbage.
care what about that game-winning touchdown he had against the Cowboys in the preseason. He threw 4 interceptions. If Trey Lance wasn't hot dog water, that would have been a blowout against any competent QB. So yeah, I don't know why they didn't have a contingency plan for Stafford. Because if Stafford goes down, you could just chuck the season in the trash. Because Stetson Bennett ain't gonna get you there.
Yeah, my thing is, why don't they have a competent backup quarterback? Stetson Bennett is just not it. And then the dude behind Stetson Bennett,
I don't even know who the heck that dude is. He sounds like a
who,
generated player on CFB 25.
like I never heard of the dude before. So the fact that I have to go on this rant again about these organizations not having a competent backup QB. It's important that you have an actual backup QB and not a backup and not a third string backup QB or a practice squad backup QB masquerading as a backup QB. And a lot of these organizations feel like some of these quarterbacks, oh, we can get them on the cheap and we can call them a backup. Like, no, they're not backups. Like there is we saw last year what a backup QB looks like and a third string QB looks like. We know now what is considered a third string and a backup. We saw Zach Wilson stink up the joint. We were like, okay, he's not a backup QB. He's a third string practice squad QB. We saw Josh Dobbs in comparison, and we're like, okay, although he can't get your team to the playoffs, we understand that he can win you some games at least. That's a backup QB. Joe Flacco, backup QB. Those are guys that you want to back up
Jacoby
your
Brissett,
starter.
backup QB.
Jacoby
Tyrod Taylor,
Brissett,
backup QB. Gardner Minshew, backup QB.
yes, Sam Howell, he's a backup QB. Like we see all these things, but like a Marcus Mariota, like all these different QB, like they're not backup QBs. In these organizations, they trying to be cheap and not pay these QBs that are actual backups to back up their star quarterback or their starting level quarterback. It just makes no sense to me. Like Stetson Bennett is not a backup QB. Like they need to stop doing this. But when you pay all that money, gotta find ways to work around the system. And I guess the backup QB situation is how they work around the system. Just drafting a late round QB and thinking that it's going to pan out. Like no, Stetson Bennett, he is a Georgia merchant. By the way, these Georgia QBs, I'm keeping my eye on you, Georgia QBs, because since Matthew Stafford, what Georgia QB has panned out in the league?
Beats me.
Aaron Murray, Stetson Bennett, Carson Beck. Carson Beck, I know you're like a 93 overall in college football 25, but in reality, I'm watching you. I'm keeping my eye on you because we see all these other QBs. Who was the Q? I forgot who was the QB before Stetson Bennett. I forget the dude's name. I remember Justin Fields had to transfer because the QB was starting, but that QB, he didn't pan out as well. I'm seeing all of these different Georgia QBs, and I see a trend ever since Matthew Stafford. I see a trend, and I'm keeping my eye on you. I'm keeping my eye on all you QBs coming from Georgia. You got all that talent, just like with Ohio State with what was his name? JT Barrett, Braxton Miller. Cardale Jones, I hate to say it, Justin Fields. It wasn't until CJ Stroud that they finally got one right. But those other QBs,
and God rest his soul, Dwayne Haskins.
Unfortunately, Dwayne Haskins. But I see what's going on. I see it. Putting up all them numbers, surrounded by all this talent.
It's low key. A discussion I had about Georgia players in general, because they might just be scheme merchants. I'm not gonna lie, especially the defensive players, because
my guys in Green Bay, they gonna prove you wrong on that one. You know what I'm saying?
I hope so.
we got a bunch of Georgia players in Green Bay. I'm telling you this right now. They're gonna prove you wrong, because it seems right now they looking like they're gonna be very promising. But all those other teams, that's a different story. That's a different story. But the offensive weapons for Georgia, they all translate. Like, they all really good. But that defense, yeah. But anywho, back to the NFL, the Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, man, I think they'll be good. I think their tight end position could be a little bit better. I mean, Tyler
Higby's hurt,
he's on the pup. Yeah, he's on the pup list. They could have upgraded in that area, but I get it. You know, you can only do so much with what you have when it comes to draft picks and it comes to free agency. So I can understand that. But yeah, man, I expect them to be in the hunt. They're going to be in the playoffs. I expect them to be, as long as Matthew Stafford is healthy, as long as the O-line and everybody else is healthy, they should make the playoffs. And yeah, man, Puka Nacua, I would love to have him on my fantasy team. I ain't gonna lie.
I bet a lot of people will. That's the beautiful thing about fantasy this year. There's so many wide receivers. Honestly, don't even draft a running back. You draft a running back in the top 2 rounds, or you don't draft one until the 4th.
Hey, man.
I'm stocking up on wide receivers. I don't care.
I'm team. You know me. I'm an advocate of draft a running back in the first round.
Depends. I'd take Breece Hall in the first.
I'll take Breece, I take Bijan, I take Christian McCaffrey. Those are my 3 running backs I'll take in the first round. If them 3 are already selected, then I'm going receiver. But those 3 right there, yeah, I'm taking them dudes in the first round. All right, let's just let me be me.